Shall I share the screen of the presentation?
No, I've just got my one up here,
Okay.
which hopefully has come up now, has it?
It's coming up.
Great.
It's blank at the moment, Ollie. Can anyone see a presentation?
No.
No.
Oh, there we are. Great. Thanks, Ollie.
Yeah, got it.
Good. Voilà. So welcome everybody. Good morning. I do apologise for that, but you know what it's like in these sharing screens and things. So my name's Ollie Pendrin. I'm the Chief Executive of Community Energy South. We do these webinars every month, the third Thursday of every month, and I thank you all for taking the time to join us. Community energy is in the heart of what we do, and sessions like business planning is becoming more and more important, you know, following COP last year, and also just everyone's urgency towards getting towards net zero and climate change. So we're getting a lot more inquiries from and so it's very exciting for us to come together and share this information with you. So before I pass on to Esme, who's going to lead the session, I'll just quickly run through about Community Energy South, if some of you don't know, are new to the sector. So we set up Community Energy South back in 2013 when we undertook a mentoring programme to support 12 community energy groups in Sussex. So we established ourselves as the voice for the sector. We do a lot of lobbying with Community Energy England to BEIS and government. We also look at capacity building for community energy groups and matchmaking, if you like, and just help making it easier for everybody. And then review innovation and new business models. On our website is the newsletter where you can find out about best practice, and also as community groups, do let Jessie know about if you've got any articles you want to share, or when you get to share offers and things like that. Promote what you're doing in the communities. It's great for other people to know about it, and we run these events and you can enter the debate. Community Energy England last year did an assessment. They do an annual State of the Sector report, and they reviewed the sector with a number of industry partners, and they are predicting up to 20 times growth in community energy up to 2030. And 2030 seems to be, you know, a big target for the sector and the energy sector. Here's some example of some of the groups across the southeast. So you're not alone. And obviously I'll pick a couple. Brighton Energy Co-op have been going for about 12 years now. I've got 3 megawatts of projects and based in Brighton, obviously. You've got Sustainable Overton, who Test Valley in Hampshire, who are you know, one of the new community energy groups across the region, doing great things, and Energise Sussex Coast in Hastings, who are really specialist at vulnerability and fuel poverty. Ferry Farm down near Chichester, which is a 5 megawatt solar farm, and provides a £60,000 a year community benefit fund, as well as investment opportunities from the community. We try and build as many partnerships as possible to support the sector. That's really important to us, from local authorities, Scottish SSE, UK Power Networks, the gas networks, just to, they really are aligned with the community energy sector, and that's important. We try and build those relationships as we go through, and regional development agencies. Back in 2 or 3 years ago now, we made sure that community energy was embedded in the region's energy strategy, in the core strategy with the LEPs, local enterprise partnerships, and that's really helped sort of move the sector on sort of leadership level, government level, that we can get support for the sector. We've developed pathways with Hampshire, Essex County Council, South Downs National Park and Surrey, where we kind of coordinate our engagement activities with community energy peer mentoring to support new groups and existing groups. This is quite a technical slide, but as we go towards net zero and local authorities start to try and achieve net zero in their plans, we are trying to support them to demonstrate that there are community energy networks developing that can inform local authority, local plans. And in Hampshire, there's a really interesting steering group around climate change that are leading and informing and helping to drive the local authority to move those strategies forward. And that's a really good example. And that's happening in Essex now as well. That's enough from me. If you haven't signed up, you probably have because you're in this webinar. Let other people know and enjoy the event today. Thank you. And I will pass over to Esme.
Thank you, Ollie, and great to see so many of you here today. So my name's Esme Dongi and I'm Project Director at Community Energy South. I've met quite a lot of you already, and for those I haven't met, hello, lovely to see you. And just a little bit about me. So I look after the project pathways, the pathways programmes across Essex, Hampshire, South Downs and Surrey. So I oversee all the business planning. And bit before that, bit about my history. Before I joined Community Energy South, I set up a small community energy company, Forestro Energy, which I'm now managing, and also started up a sustainability consultancy in the city. So we had about £1 million worth of investment from venture capitalists in the city. I was responsible for doing the business planning. So me, age 30, was dropped into it and had some fast track training on business planning, and very much enjoyed working with that company for 5 or 6 years before I set up freelance and managed my own small business. So I've got a good amount of experience to share with you, and I'm sure you have a lot of experience you can also share with everybody else. Today is I want it to be an active session, not just me talking. I've got a presentation I'll share with you in a moment, but really have about half an hour of presentation and half an hour of some exercises. So I want you to go away having started thinking about business planning and where you can go with your community energy business. And then I want to have some time for questions as well. So I will share my screen. Drop you into presentation. We go back to the beginning. Can everyone see that? Can you give me a thumbs up, Liz?
Yes.
Yes, great. Okay, so as we go, please do put your questions in the chat box. And as we go through, I'm not going to take questions whilst I'm doing the presentation. We have time for questions at the end, but if I glance down and see something that's particularly relevant for a slide I'm on, I will answer those questions, just because there's so many of us. So if we can have a specific area for questions at the end, that would be great. So community energy business planning. What we want to do is have a really good roadmap in place for your community energy business, so it's well planned out. And hopefully this session will get you started with this. So this session is sponsored by Hampshire County Council and is part of our support through the UK Community Renewal Fund for 5 community energy groups, 5 lucky community energy groups. I think you're all here. So we've got TestSource Community Energy, hello, Overton, Sustainable Overton, Energy Alton, Pecan, Hambledon and Loddon Valley Community Energy. So we're going to be working with you, fast tracking you through the process of becoming a successful community energy group and also gaining funding as well. We're also working with lots of groups in Essex and Surrey. It's a new area that we're working in. So there's lots of support there. And if you don't currently have support in your area, this will help you, and we're looking to roll out our programme into new areas too. So Ollie briefly introduced the Pathways programme. This is the steps that we go through when we support community energy groups. So we are essentially going into the next steps business support here, going straight into creating a business plan, becoming incorporated, and identifying projects and securing project funding. So I would love to hear a little bit about you, and we've got a few poll questions to see where you're from. Liz, do you want to launch the questions? So you're muted at the moment, Liz.
She's just about to launch.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, that's not the questions, Liz.
That's not the questions. Okay.
I think that might be from a previous webinar. We could ask these questions, they'd still be interesting.
Sorry, bear with me. I'm
gonna go through what we'll cover. So I'm just gonna, if you just want to close that poll and see if we can, if Liz can find the questions for this session. If not, I can ask them and we can just put a few things in the chat box. So what are we going to cover? Oh, there we go. The questions have popped up. I'm going to go through what we're going to cover first. So we're going to look at why a business plan is so important for you, and look at the sector. So the first thing you need to do with your business plan, to understand your sector, understand your market. So we're going to give a bit of information about that. Looking at getting the right team in place, legal structures. Going to look at visions and goals, and we're going to have an exercise on that. So hopefully you'll go away at the end of this session with some goals in place and thinking about your vision. We're going to look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and challenges for opportunities and threats for your business, and we'll have an exercise on that. We're going to look at getting a project pipeline together. So funders want to see shovel-ready projects, and we're going to look at how we can build that project pipeline and get a project management system in place. So I'm going to demo some project management tools for you. And we're going to look at financial planning and then also communications. So we can see if we can speed through that in the time we've got. So where are you all from? We've got the questions up here now. So we've got Hampshire, Surrey, Essex. I saw someone from Essex, even though it says there's no one there. Wider southeast, southwest. I think answers are still coming in.
Someone said that Suffolk's not listed there. Esme, what would a Sussex put?
Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't got them. I didn't have it in the east, wider southeast.
Yeah,
are they still southeast? I would say wider southeast.
We were only able to put 10 questions.
Okay, so great to see Hampshire is well represented. We've got a couple of people from Surrey. That's great. We've got our new programme in Surrey at the moment. If you haven't filled in our questionnaire about community energy in Surrey and you're in Surrey, please do. I did see someone from Essex, even though there's no one here on there. We've got wider southeast, 9 people. Southwest, Midlands, got 1 person from Scotland. Hooray, Scotland. No one from Wales, Northern Ireland and the North. That's to be expected, really. So most of our networks are southeast. So great to see you all and to hear where you're coming from. And we've got 20 people joining us from a community energy group. We've got parish councils here. That's great. Interested people. We've got 4 people there and some others as well. So hopefully this will help you all with your community energy groups, and those interested individuals, maybe you'll be joining community energy groups after this. Have you prepared a business plan before? Yes, 15 people, and maybe you've got some stuff to teach me as well. That would be great. No, 15 and in progress too. So that's great to see some people have got some previous experience. And if you're representing a community energy group, so you already have a business plan in place. So we have 4 people already do. If you're willing to share your business plans, that would be fantastic. No, 21, good. Hopefully there's lots to learn and some people are working on it. So hopefully this session will help you finish off those plans. Okay, great. It's great to hear a bit about you all. I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, great. So I am going to head straight into the session. Okay, so why is a business plan so important? Well, essentially, we're looking to create a well-managed business, and community groups, like any other business, need to make sure they've got a robust plan in place. So we're looking to get established networks built and to plan those out. We want to make sure we get investment and funding, we want to be financially stable, and we need to hopefully employ local people, and most importantly, be rewarding to work with. So this should hopefully make sure that you plan a direction that makes you want to get up in the morning and makes you feel like you're well organized and that you're actually going down a path that is well planned and organized for you. And essentially, this is your business pitch as well. So when you go out to investors, funders, and also engage your local community, there's things that they want to see, that you want to prepare in advance. So they want to know that you've got a team that they can actually trust in. So you want to look at your skills and where there's potentially any skills gaps. They want to see that you've got some clear vision and direction. That you've got goals in place that are exciting, but also achievable, that are not unrealistic. They want to see the shovel-ready projects that I've spoken about, and they want to see some basic financial planning. So business plans can have some very complex financial planning, which I'm not necessarily going to recommend that you go and do, but to be able to think about what are your startup costs, what are your first year costs, and how you're going to meet those. So we're going to cover all of this. So starting out with your business plan. So business plan, you need to understand your market. You need to understand what the limitations are of your market and what are the opportunities of your market. So first of all, it's really important that you understand your sector. So Ollie's given a good introduction to the sector already. And if you're not already completely swatted up about the sector, please do go and do some reading. And here's just a few positives and a few things that you just have to be realistic about with where we are as a sector. So first of all, we're employing over 430 people sector. That's great. Hopefully everybody in community energy groups that are here are going to be employed, if not now or at some point. There are 400 organisations working on projects, and as Ollie said earlier, we're looking to grow by up to 30% over the coming years, which is fantastic. £30 million in community shares, so there's real investment now in community energy. The technologies are becoming cheaper, they're becoming more affordable, and especially as energy prices are increasing, renewable energy technologies become more and more attractive as well. And of course, as we all know from our energy bills, energy prices are shooting up at the moment, quite alarmingly. So the benefit for us in that is that renewable energy does become more attractive. Community groups are really very uniquely placed to take action on the climate crisis. So unlike taking action from a government level, but all in our communities, we understand them, we know what they want, we know what they need, or will know what they want and need. And we can actually work on a ground level, grassroots basis for going out into our communities. We're seeing that local authorities now are getting more funding in for carbon reduction initiatives. So as we go through and looking at the Levelling Up Fund coming through, hopefully we're going to see more local authority funding coming. So community energy groups, once you're incorporated, you have the chance to actually go to your local authority and let them know that you can use those funds very wisely for carbon management projects. Of course, you need to have a good business management plan in place to do that. You can't apply for funding without getting these good business management plans in place. New funds are happening, new funds are coming out all the time, especially with COP26 just happening. We are expecting more funds to come through, and they may be in areas like energy efficiency and retrofit. They're likely to be big areas. Business development and funding support, so for all the Hampshire groups, the Essex groups, the Surrey groups, that business development support is there. And now we're looking to go out into all areas, all unitary authorities throughout the UK and offer this kind of business development support. And of course, you've got us, you've got Community Energy South, you've got Community Energy England, Do join Community Energy South if you're not members already. Lots of benefits for you joining us, and it's free for new community energy groups as well. So there is a lot of opportunities for our sector, but we need to be realistic because renewable energy subsidies are now ended and ending. So obviously the feed-in tariff for electricity has ended, and we have the renewable heat incentive, which is also ending. And that gives us a massive challenge to how we're going to make projects stack up financially without that subsidy support. So we do need new business models, new ways of working, different types of scales of projects. With renewable energy technologies becoming more affordable, that does help us, but it is a massive challenge for the sector. Let's not pretend that it's not. So we have a big reliance on voluntary resource, which can mean that we're stretched. First of all, we may be doing second jobs, and those voluntary resources may not always be as reliable as the paid resources, of course. There is a skills gap, and there's more training that's needed for community energy groups. This is the kind of thing that's helping to support that. There's still lack of funds for startup. So the funds that you see that are out there, they're often for projects, projects like putting in your solar panels, doing feasibility studies, but not necessarily for actually starting up your organisation, like covering your incorporation costs, your website development. So that's something that we have to get around. The planning system in this country is obviously always a big barrier for us, unfortunately. So for larger renewable energy projects, you do need to understand the planning system and what the barriers are there. There are inconsistencies with support as well. So different areas have different levels of support, unfortunately. And we're hoping through Community Energy South and with Community Energy England to overcome that. And with COVID-19, of course, that's brought challenges with engagement as well. So when we're starting out with our business plan, have a think about these challenges. It's all about your market research at the beginning, and be realistic about what your opportunities and challenges are. So that's a very quick speed through the sector and what I see as our opportunities and our challenges. Have a read of Community Energy State of the Sector report. That tells you pretty much everything you need to know about community energy and the sector if you haven't done already. Really get to know your sector. And also there's a regional report through Community Energy South that looks at the Southeast. So have a look at that one too. Once you've had a good understanding of your sector, you've got to understand what's happening in your region as well. So focusing in on Hampshire, because this is sponsored by Hampshire County Council, is a few things about what Hampshire's doing. Climate change targets through Hampshire County Council. Every local authority needs to put in these climate change targets now. So this is great news for us, absolutely fantastic news. So when I first started working in this sector 20 years ago, this really wasn't in place. So we're very, very well placed now to go to our local authorities and let them know that we can help implement their targets. So if you look at Hampshire's website, if you're in Hampshire, the link's there for you. You can read all about their targets and what they're doing, community projects. You'll see that community energy is listed in there. So really get to know what's happening on a local level. And then you need to understand your local market as well. So what's happening in your area? So you've got to get your target area. So where are you going to focus on? And how many people live there? And think about the name of your organisation. So when I started Forest Row Energy, I could have perhaps renamed that organisation to cover a wider area. So some people might name their organisation by the town that they're in, but they might want to then cover a further area. So make sure the name of your organisation appeals to your target area. And then start to do a bit of analysis on your area. So where are the high energy users? We really want to focus in on the high energy users for business models that are successful now. So the smaller renewable energy installations are less economic with the end of the subsidies. So if you have a look at Google Maps, you'll be able to see where the bigger buildings are, the bigger energy users. and start to identify those. So ideally have a list of all your high energy users as part of your market research. And then just get to know your local area. So good news stories, what's happening with local groups already? Are there any initiatives already in place? Are there any local planning issues? So in Hampshire, you might be in the South Downs National Park. So you have special planning regulations if you're in a national park or an AONB. Get in touch with your local parish council if you're not already a parish councillor, see what's going on there, see if they have any particular funds. So there may be the climate, the infrastructure levy rather, and so you might be able to apply into some local funds from your parish council. And then just think about how you can maybe engage with your local community. So starting out, there's a market research exercise, and these slides will hopefully give you some pointers for doing that market research. We'll share this with you at the end of the session. So getting the right team. So your funders are going to want to see that you've got the right people in place to manage your business. So a diagram here looking at core roles within your organisation. And it could be that one person does one or more, and that's quite common of these roles, but you need to make sure that you have these roles covered. So your core group here, you need a chairperson, somebody who's essentially going to manage your group. You need a project manager, ideally someone with some energy or environmental experience. Your administrator, your secretary, and your marketing and comms. So these are your core functions within your community energy group. And you want to make sure that they're covered in one way or another. If you find out that you are essentially doing all of these, then it's time to start thinking and planning about engaging more people. And then you want to start engaging a wider group as well. So these could be your technical experts, your accountants, bookkeepers, interested people. But make sure that you have these core roles covered. Otherwise, you're going to start tripping up later on in your business. So map out these core roles. Think about who is doing these functions and how you're going to meet your core team needs. And then legal structures. So we said we'd cover legal structures in this. I'm just going to touch on it. So if you're not yet incorporated, it can be a bit of a daunting process to start up a business. And it's actually extremely simple. People think that it's a hard process. It's not. It's a form you need to fill in, and you need to pay a registration fee as well. And there's various different legal structures that you could take, and community benefit societies and cooperatives are the most common ones for community energy companies. So what these two have in common is they allow share offers. So you can offer shares to the public. And you're going to want to do that at some stage, probably as a community energy company, when you go and put together your projects and go out to your local community to raise funds. Community benefit society is probably the most common type of legal entity. So both co-ops and community benefit society can go out to their community, do a share offer, and you can pay interest on capital that's invested. Community benefit society, the difference is that they operate more for the benefit of the community at large rather than their members, which is what co-ops do. And community benefit society can have what's called an asset lock, which means that if you go bust, then the assets need to be passed on to a similar type of company to the one that you're operating. So maybe another community energy company that's nearby. I can see lots of people going through on the chat, but my chat box, the way that it's formulated, is huge text. Do you know what I can do about that, Liz, so I can actually see the questions?
That's a little bit more technical than I yet know the answer to, but I can read out some of the questions, or some of us can read out some of the questions, but shall we do so when you finish your presentation?
Yeah, we'll go through the end. I think I just have to maximize the box. So I've got it really small at the moment. So I'm not ignoring your questions, everyone. It's just that unless I maximize that, I can't see them.
It's also other people are engaging with the questions and answering some of them, Esme.
Yeah,
So
great, okay. Yeah, do chat away. Brilliant. Okay. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to get going on a few bits of business planning shortly. The first thing you want to do after you've done your market research and thought about your legal structure is to think about your vision as an organisation. And this is something that people can spend a very, very long time on. It should be something that's short and snappy. I put Forest Row Energy's one there, just to give an example. So it should be your motivation. It's a key marketing message, short, snappy, present tense. Don't spend too much time on it. You can spend years thinking about these little slogans. So Forest Row Energies is energy that costs less to us and the environment. Something that's just one sentence, and that is your vision. So you're wanting to set your vision, your goals, your objectives, and your targets. So your vision is your first thing to think about, and then you'll go into more detail. I'm going to share another slide here. So this is a more complicated slide, and this is from Bath and West Community Energy, and this is part of their business plan. This shows their vision, their goals, their objectives, and their targets. And I really like this because it's all on one page. It's very easy to understand. So this is the kind of thing you're looking to produce in your business plan. It may be that it's over 2 pages. They've got their vision here, a bit like the Forest Row Energy one. Clean local energy, community owned for the common good. So that's the key marketing message. It's short, it's snappy, it's easy to understand, it's present tense. And then they give a little quote here as well. Our vision is for a local area able to supply decreasing local energy demand with increasing generation from renewable energy driven by collective action and community ownership, which is very nice as well. But I particularly like their slogan here, clean local energy, community owned for the common good. So they've got their vision. And the next thing you need to do is put together your goals. So this is what you're aiming to do. So they've got 4 key goals here: maximising community renewables, strengthening links with energy supply, increasing local benefits and engagement, building a greater sense of collective purpose. So these are kind of things you want to do. So maximising community renewables, that's, I imagine, something that all community energy organisations will want to do. Other goals you could have supporting the local community to become more energy efficient and managing energy efficiency projects. You could have a goal on fuel poverty as well, something that community energy groups will often have. So advising people on fuel poverty and helping them to become more energy efficient. You don't need to go out straight away and look to own or operate community renewables, but it is something that community energy groups will aim to do most of the time. So these are your goals. And then your objectives, which is how you will achieve your goals. So if there is a goal to maximise community renewables, they want to expand renewable energy capacity in their area. They want to launch a local supply tariff. And then they've got targets. So these are the things that are measurable. So they've actually got measurable targets here. So you'll be able to actually go back and look at what you're doing and measure progress against it. So when we work with community energy groups, we will be looking to complete some tables like this with your vision, your goals, your objectives, your targets. And I wanted to take 10 minutes now for everyone to think about a few goals for their community energy organisation, or if you've already started setting them, to have a little look about how this is structured and how you might improve your goals and your vision for your organisation. So we only have 10 minutes. So what I would suggest is that you think about 3 or 4 goals for yourselves. and then perhaps start thinking about your objectives as well. So is that clear? Is there any questions on goals, objectives and targets from anyone? Do unmute yourself, because I want to make sure that everyone understands. If you've got any questions, please ask. Okay. So I'm hoping in that case, that's all clear for everybody. So take 10 minutes, go and get a little cup of tea, very, very quick one, and just have a think about your goals for your organisation. And if you've got any questions as you go, I'm going to maximise the chat box and do put them in there, and I will answer them as we go.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
I'm a part of an existing CBS. We went into operation in the summer. And I'm thinking about, do we need a business plan for how we're going to change as an operating company? We've changed a lot in the last year, but I just want to know how you would see us focusing on that and strategizing for it.
So you're already set up? Are you starting a new company?
Yeah, we're a hydro scheme, and we commissioned this summer, last summer.
So you started up a project and now you're looking to expand what you do as a business?
Potentially, yes, because we're now operating. We need to stabilize operations and get it all sorted. It's actually quite a big thing to change from a building company to an operating company. So that's mainly for what we've been working on, but it's more looking to the future. So doing a business plan for that, I was wondering if that was a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of community energy companies do start up by doing one project. And so you do a fantastic project and then they think, okay, do we just stay with owning and operating this installation, or do we expand our business? So I would definitely say, think about where you want to go next and to put together these goals as a business that's expanding beyond that single project. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yes,
so I've got
have
sub questions, but I don't want to. They're probably better offline.
Okay, let's do them at the end. So I'm going to give everybody just 10 minutes now to have a think about some goals for their organisation. So we will come back at time now. 10:02. Yeah, it's 10:40 now, so we'll come back at 10:11. Thanks, everybody. Put some questions in the chat. I'm going to be here. I'm going to mute myself, but I'll be here if you want to put some questions through, if you're struggling with this.
I feel we should be playing some music now, Esme. Help.
Okay, music. Have you got some music, Liz?
You could sing.
People really might not want that.
I am joking.
I can find some music, but I don't know what people would like.
I could play something from my Spotify.
Go for it.
Yes, do, Nikki. Hang on, do. That would be lovely.
Rumours. Can you hear that?
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to get a cup of tea.
Can we turn it down a bit? It's quite loud. A little bit.
Music is extremely irritating. I don't leave the session plays on.
How can we possibly think of anything with that music?
Watch out.
So there is just one question here that I'll just answer. So we had someone asking about short or longer term goals. So short, medium and long term goals are a really good thing to do. But for now, just think about your overarching goals of what you want to achieve as an organisation. And then you can split those into short, medium and long term objectives, I would recommend. So overarching goals for your organisation.
Have you got an answer to Bill Jarvis's question, Esme? I expect lots of people might have an answer to his question. Yes.
So we're going to go on and look at project pipeline shortly. So I think that may be answered there, Bills.
Yeah. Success.
So just a couple more minutes, everybody. Don't worry if you haven't got anywhere near where you want to be on this. This is just to get everybody to start thinking about it.
4765.
So just as we're drawing that to the end, there was a question here that I'll just take. So vision, goals and objectives. This is from Rodney Buckland. Vision, goals, objectives are hierarchical, but I have some difficulty in differentiating between goals and objectives in this example. Yeah, so they can be a bit confusing. So a goal would be so if we take maximize community renewables, so that is what you want to do. So how do you want to do that? That would be installing local solar panels, for example, installing a local solar farm, and then your target would be one installation by a certain date. So it is the what do you want to do, how do you want to do it, how much and by when. And hopefully that helps. Does that help, Rodney?
Yes. Immediately, it is actually very clear. So that was my silly question of the day. Thank you very much.
No, it's good to have silly questions because everybody, it's not a silly question anyway, because it is confusing.
Sorry.
So it's the how, it's the what, the how, and how much by when.
That's much better. That's what I need. Single words.
There we go.
Yeah, very good. Now you can always bank on me to ask a question which everybody else wanted to ask as well.
Thanks, Rodney. Okay, so I'm going to draw that to a close, and we are going to be thinking about more goals and objectives as we go through, and hopefully we'll answer some of your questions. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. Okay, so there's another exercise here for you, and of course you can, if this is something you've done before, you may just go and get a cup of tea, however you want to do it. So one thing you need to do in your organization is plan for your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and your challenges. So every business plan will have your classic SWOT analysis in it. And this is just a few examples of what the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and challenges might be for a community energy group. So strengths, often we'll speak to community energy groups and it's really clear they have great industry experience, a good track record. There's experience in all sorts of different areas of community groups or business management. So I put down a few strengths there. Weaknesses, some common things we hear, that the group, it may be dependent on a single person or one or two people. There's often somebody who's a real trailblazer and then taking on too many roles. Time is always a difficult thing, so there's not enough time to do things. There's maybe not some experience in certain areas, and at the moment, maybe there's a lot of project ideas, but they haven't been assessed, and so there's not a real project pipeline in place. So they may be some of your weaknesses. The opportunities, so just focusing in on Hampshire. So a group may have established links already with the county council. We know that Hampshire are doing some fantastic things, and you've got project support there for you. So have a look at what your local council's doing, have a look at what's happening in your local area, see what opportunities you have, and some examples of challenges. So sometimes this might be a bit confusing with weaknesses and challenges. So weaknesses are more what's happening in your group that would mean it would make things harder for you. But the challenges are slightly different in what are the challenges beyond your group. So for example, you live in a rural area and there's limited project ability, projects within rural areas, not so many high energy users, for example. It might be that there's funding issues, government subsidies being removed. So weaknesses, I would say, more within your organisation. How would you strengthen your organisation? And challenges are more further afield. What's your challenges of your sector more? And strengths and opportunities. Strengths, again, more what's going on within your team itself, and then opportunities a bit further afield. What are your opportunities in your sector within your groups? Okay, has anyone got any questions on that? Is that too far away? If you've got questions on analysing strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, challenges, because I'm going to ask you to spend a few minutes again to think about them for your community energy organisation. Any questions, anyone? You can open up the chat box if no one wants to. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to take a few minutes and to just draw out this table on a piece of paper. Start thinking about what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and challenges would be for your organisation. And I'm only actually going to give you 5 minutes to do this. So quick exercise for you. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and challenges. See how you go.
Esme, there's lots of chat going on in amongst the CES people that I might as well share publicly because we're very excited at seeing everybody's goals and ambitions. And so what we think we might do is send out a Google form afterwards and ask people to let us know their goals and ambitions so we can put them all into a newsletter. It's be really exciting to see all the goals and ambitions of all these different groups.
Great idea. Okay, so just one more minute on this. Again, don't worry about getting it completed. It's just to get everybody starting to think about it. Okay, so let's leave it there. There's still quite a lot I want to cover, so I'm going to race on to the next slide. So the next part of your business plan, we want to see a project pipeline, and this is the bit that's going to take you the longest because we want to have a range of shovel-ready projects, as they're known, in your business plan. So the benefit of doing this is that you are ready to go once you spot funds that you can apply for, and funders want to see that list of projects there. So often when we work with community energy groups, we've got lots of ideas, lots of possibilities, but we need to do an initial assessment to see whether they're likely to be viable and make sure that we can go as soon as possible on them. So these are a whole range of questions that you could ask when you have a project idea. So I'm just going to run through these very quickly, and we're going to have some breakout rooms with a few scenarios. So you're going to be taken off to a breakout room with myself, Ollie or Jessie, and we're going to have a little think about some scenarios and what questions we need to ask and what information we need to get together. So I'm going to just use a quick example. So I'm a community energy group and I want to do a rooftop solar project. So first of all, where's the site? Where is it going to be? So for example, I've seen there's a local school. Who will be the energy off taker? Who will buy the energy from you? So that will be the local school. Who will give permission? Oh, there's a school scenario, so I'm not going to go through all of this. Who will give permission to do that? Is the scale of the project appropriate? So as I said earlier, and as many of you will know, that the scale of projects now needs to be a little bit bigger so that we can make it stack up financially. So a very small village hall might come to you and there's only a scope for a very small solar installation. It may be that you can support them, but in terms of going out and doing a share offer or something like that, it's likely to be too small for it to stack up financially for you. You want to understand energy use at all of your sites and also the energy use profile. So you want to get their energy bills and see if they've got a significant enough energy use to make a project worthwhile. But you also want to see what the energy use profile is. So you want to see the time of day that the energy is being used and how that varies throughout seasons. Because of course, if you're putting in solar PV, you don't want all the energy to be used at night when there's no solar being used. And if you are looking to put in solar PV and renewable heating, you want to look up what seasons, what the seasonality of the use is. So for example, at school, again, nobody's there in the school holidays, so you need to think about when the energy is being used and how much energy you're going to supply according to that use. How much are they paying? So you might find that some organisations have currently a very high energy cost, which is going to be beneficial to putting in renewable energy because you're going to be able to offer them a more competitive rate. You want to know how energy efficient buildings are. So if someone comes to you and said, we want to put in renewable heating into a building, the first thing you need to think about, is it energy efficient enough? Because renewable heating is going to rely on a good level of energy efficiency in order for it to be economic. A whole range of other questions here as well. Ground mounted solar. So you may want to put in a ground mounted solar farm, but how long are the wire routes going to be? What the loss is going to be on those wires? So if your site of your ground mount solar is a long way away from your energy user, that is going to make the project more complicated, and it's also going to make it more costly. Rooftop solar, is the building going to be suitable for you? It might be that the roof is an asbestos roof, which is not good news for solar. It might be that the roof isn't strong enough. Or it could be that the roof is great and you go in and you plan it all out, and then someone says, well, actually, we need to repair that roof in 10 years. And this has been a problem for lots of community energy companies. They put the solar panels on, and then someone wants to repair the roof and take the solar panels off. So that's a massive cost. So you want to know that your installation is going to stay in place for 20 years if you're looking at solar. When a project comes to you, what are the planning requirements? Is it in any protected areas? And of course, if you're in Hampshire, you've got the South Downs National Park covering part of your area, maybe. Who are the neighbours? Are they likely to object? Can you apply for any feasibility funding? And also, what experience do you have? And if you don't have enough experience, can you bring it in? And what kind of risks are there to the project? So that's a lot of questions, and hopefully that's not too overwhelming. This is going to be a reference source for everybody when you have project ideas, to do a very quick initial assessment on each project. It shouldn't take a long time, but you just need to think about all these issues. So I hope that's not overwhelmed you too much, because we're going to go into our breakout rooms now. We're going to have a look at these questions on a certain scenario, and just have a first think in your group about what kind of questions you want to ask to assess your projects, so that you can get viable projects into.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, welcome everyone. I'm hoping you can see the screen with the questions on.
Yes.
I'm going to spread mine out a bit so I can see some more of you. Change them. I mean, we could be expecting a few people in here, so I'll just give everyone a few minutes to, well, a minute or so to join. We haven't got long. Welcome. Okay, so shortly I will read a scenario out for you, which will be your project that you need to discuss based on these questions. I don't know how many more people we may have joined, but I'll start so that you can get moving on this. Hold on a second. That. Right. So your scenario is you are a startup community energy group. There's a nearby secondary school within the South Downs National Park with 1,000 students that has a variety of buildings, from prefab teaching rooms with asphalt roofs, a 1960s main building, and a modern sports hall. The school has made a commitment to go zero carbon on its website. What do you need to do or find out about to make a community energy project happen? So it's just a discussion group. I'm not here to help, I'm afraid. But I can always read the scenario again for you.
Yes, please.
Sorry, Jesse, can I just ask whether all I can see at the moment is the, I can see this project pipeline management.
Yeah, that's
business
basically the sort of the questions you need to think about when you're answering, to discuss when you're
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just to give you a prompt so you don't have to suddenly get thrown into it without being able to remember what Resme's just spoken about.
So to be honest, I just popped, I'm sure you've got plenty of things you can answer there. I kind of I want to go into the residential room to have a conversation there, but
Okay.
I did want to pop in here. Brighton Energy, obviously we've done 13 schools, and
Absolutely,
so in
yes.
case if anyone wanted to ask any questions, is it better? Shall I come back?
You're
when
the
you've had a bit of
inside. You're the
chat?
inside information for people.
Well, you know, I know it's, you know, ironically, I was talking to a group who want setting up in Ovingdean near us, and they want to look
Yeah.
at residential options. So I'd want to go over there, but I thought it might be, I don't know, maybe shall I come back here once you've kind of had a few chats?
I've got some questions for Matt straight away then.
It would be
if you've
really
done
useful,
13
yeah.
schools already.
Okay.
Read the scenario again quickly, or
Yeah, please, Jesse.
Yeah,
okay.
So
So
I just say, I'm here. I'm Andrew Tolson. I'm part of Transition Town Romsey in Hampshire, but I also work for West Sussex County Council, and we've installed PV systems on about 70 schools, and we've also worked with community energy groups. So I can sort of give you both sides of that particular coin, if that's of use.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, Dorset Community Energy has also installed panels on 17 schools, so I can bring a bit to the table on that. But Jesse, could you read the scenario out again, please?
Certainly, yeah. You're a startup community energy group. There's a nearby secondary school within the South Downs National Park with 1,000 students that has a variety of buildings, from prefab teaching rooms with asphalt roofs, a 1960s main building, and a modern sports hall. The school has made a commitment to go zero carbon on its website. What do you need to do or find out about to make a community energy project happen?
Okay.
You picked a nice one there, nice juicy one.
Firstly, is it an academy or an LA authority school? First question.
Well, indeed, is it a free school?
Yeah. Or a church school, actually, a church-owned school.
Church school, yeah.
Seems to, if anything, be easier if experience in Wales is anything to go by.
You could distill that to what is the school management and what is their appetite for the project.
Indeed. The other thing
I would agree with that. I'd say it's absolutely crucial the school are on board, because if they're not interested,
pointless.
Well,
Yeah, they've
I'd like to go
to carbon zero, haven't they? So they must be.
Yeah, we
they
need to
must
go
be
back.
on board.
You need to go back one step.
That's true.
It's who owns the roof.
Yes.
Who is the legal owner of the roof in this case? And that's obviously complicated if it's an academy, if it's an LA. There's lots of complications can be.
Yeah, I mean, it's also leasehold and freehold. If it's an LA school directly managed, then it's relatively simple. If it's if it's an academy with a 125-year lease, then you've also got to consider the freeholder, who's probably the local authority. And then you've got to consider what legal implications that has in terms of having to have a lease for the rooftop and all that sort of stuff.
One way around the lease issue is to put a license in place instead of a lease, because that doesn't have to be registered in the same way.
That's true, except we were advised that actually that doesn't provide sufficient protection for both parties. And so our legal team at West Sussex County Council came down on that like a ton of bricks, I'm afraid, because I tried to do that with some academies.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
We've been advised the same.
Only one question to ask is, sounds like some of the roofs might be flat roofs. So you've got some asphalt roofs, we were told. Flat roofs, you can have issues with drainage if you put solar panels on top. You also want to make sure the roofs are south facing.
Yeah, I think also it was said they were prefab, which means you might also have an issue with loading, or, framing systems on a flat roof.
To be honest, with any sort of roof, you need to do a load bearing analysis first.
Yeah.
What about the fact that it's in a national park?
Yeah.
Any issues there?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, permitted development rights still apply, but you know, if it's more than 50 kilowatts, you'll still have to go through the planning system and get, still have to, even though it's permitted development, you'll still have to get the okay from the planning authorities. I think in national parks, you can't have stuff facing the public highway or visible from the public highway, stuff like that, just because of the visual impact.
Yeah, so I just you placed it you placed it in the South Downs National Park, which we've been involved in conversations with them in the last year. They're changing their attitude, which is really good. We've been involved in a couple of projects where we're looking at solar within the South Downs National Park, and they are looking favourably at it, which is great. BESCO have already done a project at Plumpton College with putting solar on the roof, which is within South Downs National Park. There's also issues for the park in terms of Chichester, which the area there has committed to net zero, but a large part of the council falls within the national park, and so in order to achieve their net zero, they need to work with the national park to make that happen. So the attitudes are changing slowly.
One area I've often come across is the need, if the roof is owned of the school is owned by the local authority legally, then the local authority may need to put it out to tender to get permissions to put solar panels on the roof, which is a crazy situation, but that's what we've encountered.
We've got a couple of people.
They're not buying the panels.
Pardon?
No, I think the issue is that the school will then be purchasing we've just come across this as well, the school will then be purchasing its power from yourselves, and the question is then, that power comes from where, so,
That's a new one.
Stuart, you've got your hand up. Did you want to say anything?
Well, yes, I mean, Community Energy will operate on a power purchase agreement with anyone, because the Community Energy will own the panels. That's the basic business model. But I raised my hand because I felt we'd already gone way into the detail, and I wondered whether actually the first thing to do is the key thing that was given in the preamble was that the school wants to get to zero carbon. So that needs a bigger plan than just solar panels. So my first starting point would be to engage with the school and to flesh out a sort of 10 to 15 year plan on how they were going to achieve that objective. Solar is definitely, obviously, one of the steps on that way, but it's by far not the only one. And given that we were mentioned about sports hall and potentially asphalt roofs and things like that, there's all the questions about whether the school should undertake maintenance on those roofs before going ahead. In fact, did they want to improve the insulation as they went along? In fact, I would start with insulation if it was me. I would also start with understanding how well the existing heating system works, because they're going to be burning far more carbon, frankly, just heating the building than they are with the electricity system, because the grid is decarbonising anyway. So it depends if your objective is to save money, which I suspect it is as well. But if your objective is zero carbon, you could just buy electricity off the grid and you'd achieve that by 2035 if you believe the grid. So it's more about looking at it holistically, I would have thought. And certainly one of the things that we're doing in Danbury is actually engaging with schools, businesses, churches as well, about what is their plan, and making sure that they're working in a stepwise fashion towards that overall objective of carbon neutrality.
We have a very short time left in the breakout room. That 10 minutes has flown by. Bill, I can see you've got your hand up as well. Did you want to add anything quickly? You've got your 30 seconds.
Just so I'm completely with Stuart there, and the only additional thing I would say is that those buildings are 60 years old. So a basic survey of the building and their lifespan is probably step one before you put anything on the roofs or anywhere near them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a school, Essex County Council did a school in Danbury, which is how we started really. And unfortunately, they didn't do that survey until they started putting the panels up and then realised they needed to do massive remedial work on the roof. So big lesson learned there. The good news is they've got a new roof.
A short but sweet run through of a scenario and a little checklist for you when you're thinking about project ideas. And certainly from my group and the comments that we're getting, first of all, make sure when you're going out looking at a project, you've got somebody that you're engaging with that is a decision maker. Is the first thing to do. Who's going to say yes or no to your project? First thing to do. Okay. So a little checklist for you. I'm going to share my screen again because there's a few more things I want to cover. In the
Esme, can I just feedback very quickly from the church group?
You can. We've only got 10 more minutes though.
Well, no, I'll just be very quickly.
Very quickly.
We needed more time. So
I know you needed more time.
What we'll do is it would be good if those people in the church group, we can capture who joined that group, and we'll see if we can do a webinar in the coming months on churches.
I think we could have had a lot more discussion in the schools group as well.
So ideally, this would be a one-day workshop where we could all sit down and go through all these in detail. But
Absolutely, yeah.
Through the process, giving you things to think about. And then with all the groups and all the areas that we're working with, we're going to go into all of this in lots of detail.
Can I just say, someone just asked, I hope we did record all of those breakout rooms as well, so they should be available along with the recording of this meeting afterwards. So if you wanted to join all of them, you at least get a chance to rewatch.
I recorded mine. Okay, so things to think about with your
my confession. I'm going to make my confession. I didn't record the church's one. I do apologise to the church group. It's my confession.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Suitable one.
That's very funny. With all of this, it's to get everybody thinking, which is the main point. So I'm going to go on. Once you've got your project pipeline together, I am going to suggest to you all that you get a project management system in place. And I'm going to do a very, very quick demo of a project management system, if I can do this. Ooh, I can share my. If I can do it on Zoom.
Is it Trello, Esme?
Yeah, I've got a. I'm gonna have to just. I don't want to spend too much time, but I have got a very quick demo of a project management system in place. So I'm going to share it again. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to suggest that everybody explores a project management system called Trello. So one risk you can have with your business plan is you write a lovely document and then it becomes a document that sits on a shelf and it doesn't actually get implemented. But if you put together a project management system with what is in your business plan, you're able to manage those tasks. So this is Trello. And what it allows you to do is put together lists of actions and things you want to do. So I'm pretending I am a group in Hampshire and I am looking at my business plan. The first thing I'm going to do is book my session with Community Energy South to help me develop my business plan. And what I can do with Trello is I can put members. So I'm going to assign myself to it. I can assign dates. So I'm going to do that by next week. And then you have a list of tasks to do. So I'm going to develop my business vision and I can put a little description in here and say, think about workshop session, blah, 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 whatever I'm going to put in there. Save that as a description. And then I'm going to write things that I've done under the activities. This is a really quick demo, but I just wanted to show you that this is a free project management tool that's out there. There's loads of different tutorials on how to use it. Don't go down the route of getting a nice document together. without a project management system to actually help you to implement your tasks. So explore Trello. I'm going to hopefully go back to the presentation now. Yep. And I'm going to touch on a few final areas. So project management, financial planning. So in business planning, you'll often see incredibly complicated financial plans, and it's not something that I would suggest for a community energy company to do. But what I would suggest is that you put together a table like this that looks at what income you'll get into your organization and what expenditure you're going to have. So what you need to do is come up with a plan of covering your annual costs. So your income, it might be different funds that you're looking to apply to. And you might start thinking about different products or services you can offer. So for example, some housing surveys or a referral income from referring suppliers onto, for people that come to you to go to local suppliers. You could set up membership as well. And you want to have a think about what kind of income you could get. If you're looking to go out and share offers, what's the minimum income that you're looking to secure for that project to be viable? So once you do your detailed financial analysis on projects, what would be your baseline on which you would accept them? For example, minimum, it's going to be 2,000 profit for your organisation. So you need to think about your income streams. We'll share this table with you. And then think about your expenditure. So I would suggest you start thinking about expenditure in the first 1, 2, and 3 years. So this is just some examples of what your year one expenditure could be. A lot of this could be done in-house. So I'm not saying that your expenditure would be this amount here, but you need to cover your incorporation costs, for example. You need to develop a website. You're going to need insurance at some point. If you start going out and advising your local community, you need to think about your public liability and professional indemnity insurance. Hosting of email accounts, online meeting software, if you're going to be paying for subscriptions, a marketing budget, and some kind of contingency. So you will have costs when you start up your organisation, and you need to think about how you're going to cover them. So we will be helping all the groups that we work with make sure that they have a plan to cover their costs and expenditures. A lot of these things can be done in-house with no cost at all. But get a plan together, what your year 1, 2, and 3 expenditure will be, and how you plan to meet those costs. And a communications plan. So again, this can be incredibly complicated. And what I would suggest to you is you just have 3 priorities of your communication plan. Think about somebody laughed, simple marketing messages. Who's laughing?
Not that funny.
It's not that funny, maybe it's something else. So think about some simple.
If you, Esme, you're muted.
Okay, well that just threw everything, didn't it? Someone laughing. It's the last thing you want when you're doing a slide. Think about some simple communication messages. You've got to get a basic website in place, and I can help people with basic website design, and do a local survey. So some free surveys you can get on things like SurveyMonkey. So when you go out to funders, they will want to see that you have done some engagement with your local community. It's a common question that you'll get asked on funding applications. And it will be really good if you can go back and say, we've asked our local community if they would like to have renewable energy projects, and X amount of people have said yes. And you can promote it places like Facebook, with your parish councils. So think about your first 3 priorities for communication. And if you want to have a look, I'm not going to do a demo now, but if you want to have a look at a basic website, I am going to put my neck out there, and one that I have designed, which is forestrowenergy.com. you will see some basic marketing messages with calls to action on your website. So that is join us, sign up to our newsletter, become a member, all these kind of things you want to have on your website. So think about your communications plan. Now, I realize I have shoved huge amounts into an hour and a half, and we will share this presentation, lots for you to think about, and hopefully get going on your business plan. And there's time for a few questions. So
just very quickly, Esme, I actually posted the presentation in the chat, so people
Great.
download that straight away if they want to.
Great.
And then the recording will be available later.
We can go a few minutes over. Obviously, if you want to go off, that's fine. But if you want to hang around for the next 15 minutes and have a chat and answer questions, please do. Ollie?
Can I just, because I've got to jump off onto another meeting, there's just one thing. Doug, how wonderful that you've joined us from Australia. That's brilliant. I've given you my email in the chat. Please send us an email about your group in Australia. We'd love to put it on our newsletter because, you know, we're out there to support around the world as well. And secondly, can I ask the CES team and everybody who's involved with this call, if we can as Community Energy South come back to you and maybe you share your visions with us, so that, and we'll send out something after this event, just so we can capture this. And as I say, we have a monthly newsletter. So if you want to talk about your visions and share your thoughts, you contact Jessie and she runs our newsletter. So thank you.
And you got the contact email there on the screen.
Yeah, yeah. But as I say, Doug, how wonderful.
I'll put it in the chat.
From Australia.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for that. It's great to be here.
Good. Sorry.
Very interesting discussion. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Good.
With the Northern Lights in Australia as well. Great.
Northern Lights?
That's the Southern Lights.
We call them Southern, yeah.
You got lots of sun, but it's a long wire to get the electricity up to the UK.
Think about your wire routes on that project.
We're going to sell the electricity to Singapore from Darwin. Have you heard about that? Yeah. Anyway.
So I'm happy to stay for the next 15 minutes or so. If you want to hang around and you've got any questions, I know we've had loads of questions on the chat. Sorry, haven't had a chance to answer them. I really wanted to get as much as I could into that session. So any questions? Fire away, anyone?
There've been loads of really interesting questions in the chat, but obviously everybody's just taking in everything that that came up today.
I can go back to some of them. And do just go off as you need to. Don't need to stay.
Yeah. You know, this is a very naive question, but I represent a very small parish, and I wondered if the whole model of community energy relied on selling the energy you produce at retail.
No, it doesn't. So this is up to you where you take your community energy group. So it may be that you don't sell energy at all. It may be that you start up and help people with fuel poverty and energy efficiency advice. For example, if you don't have any big energy users, it may be that you operate as a local group to help raise awareness. It might be that you help project manage some smaller installations, help people to fundraise. There's lots of things you could do. You don't necessarily have to think you're going to be selling energy and going into big projects. I would see we've got Gordon from the Big Solar Co-op here. Hey, Gordon.
Hiya.
So there is also support that's available. So it means it can be that you link in with other organisations and support that's available for you to do a project, like the Big Solar Co-op, for example.
Do you want me to say a bit about
your
that?
hands up, Gordon.
Actually,
yeah, I was just.
Do you mind? I've just got to jump out, but sorry, Gordon. I've cut across you, but I've just got on the small rural communities. Have a look at the community project and the work that Avesco are doing with small communities, because the view is that try and support your community to have a plan so that everybody can have a plan to retrofit. And that's the thing. Start at the beginning make a plan for households and the community, and then move forward. They've done a lot of work on that. Sorry, Gordon, over to you.
No problem. Yeah, it's simply to, I put some comments in the chat earlier on, just to try and discuss the viability, or to avoid people wasting time on perhaps technologies that will take a lot of time and a lot of effort, but wouldn't be maybe financially viable at the moment, since feed-in tariffs have disappeared. So I've done or attempted to do quite a few hydro projects, and they're certainly in that category, for example, but they're very nice to do. And the community support for them is 100% in most cases. But at the moment, the areas that we can be sure about is reasonably large scale on-roof solar systems. And so that's where Big Solar Co-op is trying to set up, or is setting up, a UK-wide, generally not in the southeast, because we think there's quite a lot of support, like from you guys already in the southeast, but for the rest of the country, so that people don't have to go through the heartache of setting up their own individual small businesses and doing all of that stage, and then having to maintain them for the duration of the project, which we hope is going to be 20 to 25 years. And we're seeing around the country that once about 5 or 10 years passed, those communities can be sort of islanded, and the original people who had all the enthusiasm moves away, and then it's quite difficult to know what's going to happen with those systems. So just try and think of that, and think about what the long-term situation is going to be. And we're there to try and support and share also the costs, because to make it viable at the moment, we need to keep running costs as low as possible. So by doing across lots of projects at the same time, we can keep those costs down. And very much we still want to involve the local community, and the whole structure is a very innovative cooperative, which I should say has just been signed off by the FCA. It's a very unusual and good structure, but the FCA have approved it. So that's all good news. So
Yeah.
any questions on that, really?
The point there is that, sorry to cut a bit, Gordon, is that we're not on our own, and although it can seem very daunting, there's some really good organisations out there that can help you, like Big Solar Co-op, other organisations, Pure Leapfrog, for example. I'll give them a quick plug, because we've got, I think we've got Laura here, who works with Pure Leapfrog, who can help with share offers. So in your business plan, start mapping out which organisations you could potentially work with that could help you, and remember that you're not on your own with all of this. Any other questions?
I've got a question just for Gordon there on what type of hydro you've installed.
In the past, it was everything from very small streams. I mean, in Herefordshire, we've had there's a Herefordshire Weirs project, which is over 50, trying restoring 50 original weirs and mills, etc. But they were relatively small, so in the single-figure kilowatts, kilowatt hours. Single-figure kilowatt generation, but then it's up to projects on not me personally, but other people involved with the River Severn and much larger scale stuff. So and lots of things in between, but many issues with them. But I think larger the better. But obviously we don't often have the geography in the UK to have the larger systems, so that's a fundamental problem of physics.
Just FYI, I've been in contact with a Belgian company called Turbulent, which seemed to have a solution that would fit on most canal weirs on the bypass around locks, which are 4,000 in the UK. I just wondered if you were using them, but if not, look them up, because they seem like a very viable solution and very cost effective.
I am actually an electric canal boater, so that's very interesting. I don't know them.
Yeah, turbulent.be.
Okay.
Any other questions for anyone? Let's stay on for a few more minutes.
I'd like to ask just a question about Turbulent, because we looked at them a few years ago and they hadn't sold to anybody in the UK yet. Something to do with getting Environment Agency belief in the system, particularly in terms of harming wildlife and stuff. How far have they got? Have they sold in the UK yet?
I don't think they've sold in the UK, but when I spoke to them last, they were working with the EA on exactly that, on the fish, you know, getting approval for the fish-friendly turbine that they designed. So,
But
so
there's another company called Verdurg that's in the UK that uses the Venturi mechanism to enhance hydraulic head. They multiply it by about 3 times using the Venturi system, which gives you more power, and then you can use a smaller generator. But that again has had the same problems with the EA. So, but they're worth thinking about. We had to go back to the Archimedes screws, which was really sad because that's really old tech. But the new stuff should be much more cost effective when the EA let us.
So that, can you put that name of that company in the chat, Sophie?
Yeah, will do. Yeah.
Esme, can we stop screen sharing?
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've changed the screen view so I can see everybody. So now,
Yes, exactly. Let's see if I can stop you screen sharing. Hang on.
I can see it there. Stop share. Yeah, there we go. That's everyone there. It's great to see so many of you. Any more questions before we go? We got one more. Time for one more.
I'll just say thanks and goodbye.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Echoed from me. Very good. Thanks very much.
Yeah, excellent presentation. Very useful, Esme.
Great. Good to hear it. Thanks.
That's a
Good
keeper.
to see you.
Really useful. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Glad it was useful. Good to hear.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, everyone.